Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm sporting my Spidey sweatshirt that my grandson bought me. So I wanted to talk today about relationships and the importance of just like everything in life for you to be functional in your relationship. Now, I'm talking about every relationship that you have, whether it be your romantic relationship, your family, your friends, your co-workers. You know, what it comes down to with relationships, and every time I talk to anyone, give them advice about, especially when it comes to boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, that romantic significant other relationship, I always tell them, what most people make mistakes is they forget about being functional in their relationship. And what I mean by that is, your relationship has to be based on, you have to have friendship, you have to have love, you have to have mutual respect. You have to have these cornerstone things that are in a relationship that make it thrive, that make it, a good thing for you to be in. Make it functional. And there's always signs when it's not functional. From my personal experience, I can tell you, you're in a relationship with somebody, and it's your ego that won't allow you to step back and in the relationship, because you're just like, sometimes it might be love, or in this or that. But in reality, a relationship needs to be functional. When you talk about abuse, that's not functional. When you talk about not receiving, mutual love, that's not functional. When you talk about not having mutual respect, that's not functional. And notice how I said mutual and all those things, because a relationship also can't be one way, because that's not functional. So many times we're in bad relationships because one of the person in the relationship is not completely fully involved. They're not given mutual respect, mutual love, mutual care. They're not given what you're not giving to them what they need. That's not functional. A relationship and friendship's the same way. I mean, when you're in a friendship with somebody, it's supposed to be a give and take, right? You respect each other, you like each other, you do things for each other. It's a mutual thing. Now, I understand there are, degrees of stuff. In other words, a lot of relationships, one particular person does more for the other person, but that's always made up in some other way if it's a functional relationship. And sometimes some people are more of the giving type, so they're the ones who are always giving and stuff like that, and that's okay. But again, it has to be mutual in some respect. And so many times people get involved in relationships and it's not functional. And even your job, when you think about it, is a relationship. What I mean by that is, if you're going to your job every single day or 5 days a week, and you have your coworkers, your bosses, you have other people you're intertwining with, you have the job itself. That is a relation. Those are all relationships that need to be functional in order for you to really prosper in that job setting. Now, when it comes to work, there's a lot of aspects of what you need to work on, right? I mean, when you go into your job, you don't just blurt your mouth and say rude things to your coworkers and so forth. You have to be polite. You have to be respectful, right? Well, that's the same thing in your personal life too. You have to have mutual respect for each other. A lot of times we have more respect for people in our co-working situation because it's almost mandated. In other words, you're not going to create a healthy work environment if people are fighting and not getting along. And people tend to be more kind to people that they don't, that aren't so much, like your personal relationships. And there are so many aspects to being in a relationship. It's and it's difficult in some ways, because the truth of the matter is, you are really only responsible for yourself, and you are only able to control what happens within yourself. And so when you're in a relationship or a friendship, think about this. When you have a friendship with somebody, you usually, it works because the other person doesn't always think about themselves in pertaining to the relationships, right? Same thing with your romantic life. You can't have a one-sided thing where it's like it's all about me, it's not about you, or vice versa. So a functional relationship, whether it be a friendship or love, it's always a give and take. Now, like I said, sometimes it's more of this and more of you in this way, but it has to be a give and take. Otherwise, it's not functional. Both parties have to have something from it that is a positive thing. Why would you be in a relationship with anybody that's not positive for your life? Why? I mean, seriously, if you're in a relationship, now I understand you can't pick your family, but, you still can determine the degree in which you spend time with them and do things with them based on the relativity of it being functional. So it's like, why would you do that? And so when people come to me and they say, I'm not happy in my marriage, or my boyfriend's doing this, or my girl, I always say, well, how long is this? In other words, why, if your life is so miserable, what is the point of you being in this relationship? It's kind of like going back, and I know I always go back to martial arts, but why you if you've been taking a martial art for 10 years and you still can't fight, can you explain to me the reason why you're still taking that martial art? So it's like you're in a relationship for how many years and you're not happy and you're miserable, and can you explain to me again why you're in that relationship? So it's like you have to be functional. I'm telling you, in every aspect of your life, you have to be functional. Because you know what? One of the keys to being successful in everything, including relationships, is being able to adapt, right? My wife and me have a great relationship. But, she's got a completely different personality than me. We're completely different. But we have a mutual respect for each other. We have a friendship. And it's functional because, I accept the things about her that are quirky. She accepts the things about me, and there's plenty of them that are quirky. So it's like that's what it comes down to. You have your friends, and you have your friends, and some of them have goofy things they do, and you accept it, right? You got a friend, and he, you can't go to this restaurant because he doesn't like it, and you can't do this but you accept it because there's parts of the relationship that are good. Okay, so I always tell people, the first thing you need to do is step back and say, why are you in this relationship? Now, when it comes to marriage, it's not the same as boyfriend and girlfriend. You're in a committed relationship. You took a vow in front of God to be in this relationship. You need to work on it. But if the relationship isn't functional, and again, you can make things functional. The difference is when you're in a relationship, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship, there's two parties. You see, when you're dealing with stuff by yourself, if you want to get in shape, you want to learn martial arts, you want to become better at this, better at that, make yourself stronger or whatever, that's you. You're 100% in charge of that. But in a relationship, you're 50% in charge of it. So you both have to give and take. So you can make a relationship functional if you're willing to be honest. If you're willing to be functional and talk to the other person. One of the strong points of me and my wife's relationship is that when we have issues, we go to the other person and tell them, hey, I'm not, we don't hold things back. And you find out that most of the time, people when you're in a friendship or relationship with somebody, they actually care about what's going on in your head. They actually want to know, that you're happy or, and they're concerned about things and stuff like that. If they're not, then again, you're probably not in a functional relationship. If your significant other or your friends don't give a crap how you feel, or vice versa, then you're probably not in a functional relationship. Now, there are steps to make your relationship more functional, but like I said, you can take the steps for yourself, but if the other person doesn't take those steps, then it doesn't matter. So again, just like in everything else, when we talk about functional reality, and we talk about functional honor, and we talk about functional adapting, what is the key thing in all those things? Functional. So when you're in a relationship, when it looks at functional honor, that's the honesty. Okay? You have to be honest with that person. If you're not happy with something they're doing, and it's causing you to maybe treat them bad, or maybe withdraw your feelings, or maybe, have negative feelings toward them, you need to make a decision. Am I going to continue this, which is going to escalate and escalate down, and it's not going to help my relationship, or am I going to confront this person and figure this out? That's functional. You see, that's how you get things done. When you're a boss at work, when you have something that needs to be done, and you have an employee that you need to talk to, you're not a very good boss if you hide in your office and you don't confront that person, right? In every aspect of what we're doing, you have to understand that when there's somebody else involved, in order for the relationship to be functional, both parties have to be willing to be functional. Now, it doesn't mean that you sit down your friends and say, we need to be functional, unless, of course, you're both, interested in, making your working on that. But all the stuff that we talk about is stuff that you need to work on with yourself. And how you can convince other people is just, it's an old saying, you live through your actions. So if you go to your friend and say, hey, Joe, we've been arguing a lot about this particular thing, and in other words, maybe Joe isn't coming to you and being forward and stuff, but you can take that first step. That's how you can take and make things functional. So even though you can't control Joe, you can control how you are going to respond or react, and you don't want to do what? React. Because by you not answering or talking to Joe about the situation, you are actually reacting, not responding. Because most likely Joe doesn't want you to talk about it. Therefore, by you not doing it, you're reacting to him, not responding. You need to respond if you want to be functional. And sometimes you'll be surprised. Usually what I find out my own personal experience is that when you confront people about things, they're usually pretty open. And if they're not, it's a pretty telling sign that maybe you're not in a good relationship. I mean, really, if you confront your friend or your significant other or your coworker and say, hey, there's an issue, basically, and believe me, guys don't walk up to each other and say, hey, my feelings are hurt, but there's ways that guys talk about things, and the same thing way girls talk about things, and the way guys talk to girls and girls talk to guys. It's just part of human nature. But either way, you got to deal with it. And the strength comes from you dealing with it. Because you cannot adapt until you're functional. So if you want to change something in your relationship, you can't take that step of adapting if you're not functional. So you have to be functional in your relationships. All right? And remember, it's up to you to change you and change your life. And when you are dealing with somebody else, it's still up to you. It's always up to you. Always. Enjoy your day, and thanks for listening.